putting this off for some time, but today I want to share my views on Herschel Walker. Herschel Walker is presently running as the Republican nominee for senator from Georgia. Herschel Walker is a very well-known, even famous Georgian. He's probably the most famous football player from the state of Georgia. He went to the University of Georgia in the 80s, and he was something to see. He was something to watch back in the 80s. I was at the University of Alabama. He was a threat all by himself. I mean, nobody wanted to go up against Herschel Walker. In 1982, as a junior, he won the Heisman Trophy. In 1982 also, Donald Trump started the USFL Football League, and Herschel Walker was one of his first draftees. He played for the New Jersey Generals for 3 years, and then that league folded. That was one of the times that Donald Trump overplayed his hand. He called himself creating a spring football league, saying that Americans like football so well that when the NFL is not playing, then his teams would play, and that it wouldn't be competition for the NFL. Well, the NFL didn't see it that way, and he came up against the NFL machine, and he lost. So his football league folded. Herschel Walker then went to the NFL and played for another 11 or 12 years. He had a successful professional career, made a lot of money, retired, and rode off into the sunset. And I don't think anybody expected to hear from him again. But because of that outstanding football career, he's a legend in Georgia. That's his claim to fame, and that's his name recognition. And if you thought you'd heard the last of Herschel Walker, well, you were wrong. One of those sports program documentaries, one of those Where is Herschel documentaries came on, and there was Herschel Walker up there to inform everybody that he was suffering from multiple personality disorder, which they're now calling dissociative identity disorder. What that means is he's got several people, several personalities crowding out his mind, trying to live in his head. All of these people trying to live in one head. Now that is a mental illness. And you would just think that a major political party would realize this is not the face to put on a Senate campaign with the possibility of winning a seat in the United States House of Senate, making important decisions about people's lives. You would just think they would know better than that. But here we are. Herschel Walker is running for senator from Georgia. Now, the mastermind behind this is most likely his former boss, Donald Trump. When he ran for president of the United States, Herschel Walker was one of his supporters. And President Donald Trump has a way of bringing things to the light that you wouldn't expect, and putting them right out there in front of everybody and trying to make it work. He and Herschel Walker, as I said before, have known each other for about 40 years. And they have some things in common, because in the same way that people have accused the former president of being a liar, I think Herschel Walker probably has him beat based on what people say, and I think Herschel might be an even bigger liar, which really that takes some doing. But that's what they're saying about him. Herschel Walker is in over his head as a senatorial candidate, and nobody has told him that. They've been propping him up, and now the whole thing has blown up in his face. His son, Christian, who has been a staunch supporter out here wilding out, trying to check black people, he is also a right-wing conservative like his father, and he's been out here trying to chastise black people over Black Lives Matter or single moms or black on black crime. He's just been doing the most out here. And now I think he found out some things about his father that he didn't know, and he has completely turned on Herschel. And this is really, it's really bad seeing a family imploding like this in the public. Now, people in Herschel Walker's campaign call him a pathological liar. Now, if they know that about him, why are they putting him out there? And I mean, his son knows that he's a liar. Herschel Walker has said that he was in the top 1% of his graduating class at Georgia, and he didn't even graduate from the University of Georgia. He said that he's been a police officer and that he's worked for the FBI. He has even said that he started a breaded chicken empire. Now, these are things that people can check, and it would almost be laughable. It would be hilarious just in the regular black people way of operating. A lot of us would actually find this kind of funny if we would be honest. We would think it would be funny because all of us have a big liar, and most of us, I'll just say it that way, most of us have a big liar in our family. You've got that family member who will just walk in the door lying unprovoked. Nobody asked them anything, nobody required anything of them. They just walk in the door lying. And you know, most of us have that aunt or that grandma or somebody who will say the minute that person walks in the door, now don't you come in here lying. So Herschel Walker seems to be that kind of person. So the October surprise in Herschel Walker's campaign is that his lies have caught up with him. His whole platform is a lie. The very things that he claimed to be against are things that he has engaged in himself. He claims to be a big Christian. He's against absentee fathers, single mothers, abortion, black on black crime. These are things that he has been railing against from the beginning. Well, it turns out, according to Christian, he was an absentee father. He has created single mother families. He was a batterer against his wife Cindy, Christian's mother, whom he was married to for 19 years. She accused him of battery, which he admitted to, and of pulling a gun on her. Those are criminal acts. Christian is a drama queen, and he's very active on social media, so you have to consider that when you're talking about Christian Walker. But he has shared some fairly explosive tweets about his father, and he wants the world to know that he is fed up with Herschel Walker, and he wants the world to know just what a hypocrite he is. Now, this tweet is very telling. Christian says, every family member of Herschel Walker asked him not to run for office because we all knew some of his past. Every single one. He decided to give us the middle finger and air out all of his dirty laundry in public while simultaneously lying about it. I'm done. Now, this really speaks to narcissism, but remember, this is a professional football player. This is a former football player. Those guys start getting gassed up from the time they're in middle school in some cases. So they start then, and they go all the way through until they're about 35 or 40 years old with the crowd and with the cheering and the limelight. I'm told that they don't ever forget that limelight. So when somebody comes and says, you could be a senator, what he heard was limelight, television, cameras, crowds cheering. So he wasn't going to turn down that limelight. And even if lying comes to him as easily as breathing, even if he had 15 or 20 people living in his head, he was going for the limelight. Here's another one of Christian's tweets. And he's rebuking his father for these outside children that he wasn't owning until he got in this Senate race. It says, you have 4 kids that we know of, and you weren't in the house raising one of them. You were out cheating and lying. If you loved your kids, you'd be raising them instead of running for a Senate race to boost your ego. And Herschel Walker responds, I love my son no matter what. I'm going to break away from this topic for a moment and say this is one more piece of confirming evidence to black women that they're not missing out on anything when they miss guys like Herschel Walker. They try to put a big front to the world like they got such a better situation when they marry another race of woman. They're so happy. The women pretend they're so happy. But then when the real story is told and the truth comes out, this is what you often get. But this reaffirms to black women that these men don't behave any better with these other races of women than they do with black women, and many times they're worse. So I just wanted to say that before I move on to the next thing Christian has to say, which is also fairly explosive. He says, I know my mom and I would really appreciate if my father, Herschel Walker, stopped lying and making a mockery of us. You're not a family man. When you left us to bang a bunch of women, threatened to kill us, and had us move over 6 times in 6 months, running from your violence. Those are very damaging statements coming from a son talking about his father. Here's a tweet from somebody named Roger Sollenberger, and it's an exclusive. According to him, he says, Herschel Walker, an anti-abortion absolutist, paid for an abortion in 2009. We have the receipts, literally. And Eric Erickson, who is a right-wing Republican, responded, I thought we all knew this. Also, old news and people do change over time. So here's an apologist for Herschel Walker. If it was anybody else, he wouldn't be saying this. But because it's Herschel Walker and they want him to win, he's trying to make it seem like, well, it's no big deal. That was a long time ago and people do change. Well, people do change. But when you change and when you say things like what Herschel Walker has been saying, then you go back and let people know that you financed the very thing that you're condemning other people for doing. And I'm just wondering, what is wrong with the Republican Party? Why are they pushing this man out there like this? He's allowing himself to be used and nobody can tell him anything. His son said every member in his family tried to tell him, do not run for public office. And he did it anyway. But the Republican Party, to me, is the real culprit here. From the beginning, they knew his medical history and his history of being a pathological liar. But they're going to use him in hopes of winning. Now, even without these scandals, Herschel Walker would have had to win Georgia with overwhelmingly white votes, because I don't believe black people would have voted for him. Not in any large numbers. Herschel Walker is from Wrightsville, Georgia. That's in South Georgia. It's a small town, predominantly black, and they're not supporting him. According to the New York Times, the people in Wrightsville say he forgot where he came from and he is not a part of the black community. The South is full of these Herschel Walker types. They were high school superstars. Some of them went on to college and played in big PWIs. Very few of them become anywhere near as successful as Herschel Walker did. But it doesn't matter what level of success or imaginary success they achieve. They let football, white girls, and fame go to their heads. A lot of them ended up right back in those small towns, living in the projects or trying to sell drugs or in jail or dead. In Herschel Walker's case, he ends up with a whole community of people trying to live in his head. Back to the conversation. Now, the tragedy in this would be if Herschel Walker actually wins the Senate seat, which is doubtful at this point. It's a sobering thought. Donald Trump actually won. What if Herschel Walker wins? What you would have then is somebody who is mentally ill and a liar in the Senate. How could you trust somebody like that with the lives of American people who really need good governance? And how can you trust a party that would put somebody up like that to run for office? It just goes to show that there are people who will do anything to win, because all they're going to do is use him. If he ends up winning by some miracle, all they're going to do is use him as a puppet. They're going to be running the show. And I even believe that they may have had a plan for, at some point, exposing him. So he would have to resign from office. So the governor, the Republican governor, and I think Governor Kemp will win, would slide a white Republican in. I think that's how they were trying to use him. But it seems like it has backfired on them. And I hope that it has, just because it's so unethical what they're doing. And I'm going to say un-American. They're always talking about something is un-American. I think what they're doing is un-American. That man is not able to serve in the Senate. Now, what they say about the illness that he has is that it can be managed through psychotherapy and medication. But what's happening now to Herschel Walker, with his son, with his family, with his campaign, this is what happens when you don't listen, when nobody can tell you anything. Sometimes people really do have your best interest at heart. When people come flashing money or flashing fame, those are the people that you have to be suspicious of, because most of the time, those people are looking out for their own best interest. Herschel Walker would not listen to the people who cared about him the most. And because of that, he has embarrassed his family, hurt his son, and basically made himself into a laughingstock. His son says a mockery. And this is often the outcome when you won't listen to the people that care about you. Let me know what you think about the video. Subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, and as always, have a great day.